So, hello, fellow Earthlings. This is Earthling 6455463728. And it's almost as if China thinks that there are more important things in life than just money. I say stuff like that because China seems to be what many people have termed punishing or cracking down on many of its very um, rich, wealthy companies. It's been affecting their stock market prices on different exchanges in the world. For example, companies gaming companies, they have told gaming companies that they can't allow minors to play more than a certain amount of video games per week during the school week, and I think even on weekends. They have shut down foreigners who were teaching English to students. Um, I think they've done a number of things, and these different moves that they have made, even let's say, even with respect to garbage, you know, they could have been still accepting. They could have let the market decide whether or not it was worth it to still ship uh, recycled materials to China. They could have just left it up to the market to decide that. Or with respect to the banks, there is Evergreen. Well, it's not a bank, it's a real estate company. But they've put certain things in place that have essentially put the company in a bind. Um, they did not ease things in any particular direction, and the CEO was a very, very powerful, influential person in China. Um, that guy from Alibaba, you know, people are going to say, or people have said, that, he made the Chinese government look bad because he spoke about the fact that the banks are not doing things, they're not advancing. And basically, Alibaba and I think it was Ant, that was a company that was about to be listed on a well, I guess on the world, different international stock exchanges, it might have been. And then the Chinese government just shut the door on them and said, nope, you need more of this, you need more of that. And that whole thing where they were going to have peer-to-peer lending, I think it was going to be, where you could lend people anywhere, I guess in China and maybe beyond. They just cracked down on it. And all of those different things, whether it was, students playing lots of games, video games, um, people would say they are, restricting people's freedoms. But and with respect to the environment and accepting all of the recyclable material that really wasn't that recyclable anymore. The quality of recycled material was going down. So I guess a lot of it may have just been going into Chinese landfills. Um, it's almost as if the Chinese government doesn't do every single thing they can to promote business and money. It's as if certain things are more important than money and business. Because what happens in the West is we have, in many ways, a laissez-faire attitude to certain things, whereby because I imagine because of lobbying, because of campaign donations, politicians allow certain activities that are clearly not in the best interest of various countries to continue until if whether it's a bubble that bursts or whether there's a scandal that erupts, um, based because of predatory lending, because of whatever. And a lot of bad things that are clearly not good are allowed to continue until, well, there's no real until. I mean, there are a lot of things that are continuing. I mean, everything that would have caused the financial crisis. Um, for example, I think there's some Dodd-Frank legislation that was put in place, and a lot of that has been wheeled back in subsequent years to allow banks to do more of the things that they were doing that caused the financial crisis. But China is and this is one of the things where, and I guess many people wouldn't want to listen to this, but in my piece about an argument for a world emperor, that's what I was saying. If you have someone like Xi who doesn't need your campaign donations in order to get elected, then he can really do things that are according to his personal conscience or the conscience of whomever. And while there are things that are definitely not good things, like what's happening with many of the Uyghurs um, in China and other minorities as well, but it's mainly the Uyghurs, I guess. You know, there are many things that obviously don't have anything to do with the money. And I would not necessarily want to live in a country where people can just knock on your door and you can disappear. And that can happen in China. Even if you're a billionaire, it can happen to you. And I would not want to be in a place where I'm forced to apologize for this, that, or the other because I'm threatened with either execution or prison time on trumped up charges or whatever. But the kind of agility that you're going to have in a country like China, where there's no arguing about, there's no debate as to whether or not kids really should be allowed to play video games for 5 hours every day, and you just do it. Boop. Then, and of course, some kids are going to be able to get around that. I've heard that adults sometimes will give kids, IDs in order for them to circumvent the system. Of course, that'll happen. But it would also hamper a lot of other kids who can't do that. So there's going to be a marked improvement across the board. And China has that agility. Many other countries, Singapore might have that agility to be able to do the right thing right away when it needs to be done without having to debate it or without having to think about the polls or without having to go to court or to have it, to worry about something being overturned or an injunction being put on it. No, this is just what we're going to do, and we need to do it now. Um, yeah, there have been different people who have talked about the fact, and I'm talking about racist people in the Trump administration, who would say things like, it's a country is more than just XYZ, meaning that, they wanted racial purity or something like that. And, but, if a company was paying enough money, they might say something different. That's not how it's going to be in China for the foreseeable future. There's no amount of money that will allow you to get your way. One, if you in any way um, embarrass the government or the country, and two, if they have a decision based on their conscience, and you want to overturn that by promising, you know, different things, a job in their administration after you leave office. It's like, after you leave office for what? Why would you be leaving office? I don't know that there are any term limits in in China. But yeah, China, I can't see any other. The problem with, the rise of Japan, I don't think anybody ever really remembers that. Um, but Japan was supposed to be taking over as the number one economy in the past. And of course they didn't. They have had stagnation for decades now. The difference between um, that case and China's case is, number one, there's several differences. Number one, um, China already has many orders. Let's see. So America has about 320 million people, and China has about 1.4 billion, which means that 320 by 320, 320 plus 320 is 640, 640, that's 1.2, so that's 4 and something. So China has 4 point something times the population of the US. And all those people they're as hardworking as Americans, people would say more. America has its position in the world because it has the fourth largest population. That's really it. Um, Let me see. There's China, there's India, there is Indonesia, and there is the US. In terms of developed countries, I think the UK has about 60 million people, which is like, 1/6 of the population of the US. Canada has 30 million people, which is like 1/10. Germany, I think, has like 80 million people. Brazil, I think their population has stagnated for quite a while. Um, so that's not going to help them, but they have like 220 million people, so that's one of the reasons why people were looking at them as one of the tigers. But yeah, Japan has this aging population. They can't figure out a way to increase it, and they couldn't, I'm sure. They were going to crest, and their population was 175 million people, which is half of what the US has. No, I don't know who thought that they were going to be the number one global power when they have an aging population. People don't even want to get married, far less have kids. That's America's big power, that it had so many people who can do so many things. That's why the American military, part of the reason why the American military is like the next 10 countries combined together, because there's so many different people that can provide um, their work and resources and their wealth and whatever to that to the American military. So yeah, um, there's just no logical way that China is not going to become a larger economy than the US. And with their Belt and Road Initiative, with the way that in the US even now you can't get people to wear masks and do the kind of things of crackdowns that you can do to stop the spread of COVID as in China. There's no way to do that. Yeah. This is something that, you know, is just inevitable unless, even if there's some kind of a war or something, because, I'm going to talk about this some other time, but at the end of the day, if something happens to China, it's not just going to be happening to China. It is going to affect the rest of the world negatively in a huge way. So, it's like you cut off your nose to spite your face. If there was a war and it did, mess up China completely, it would mess up the US, it would mess up the rest of the developed world, it would just mess up the entire world. So, yeah, it's kind of unlikely, very unlikely, and I guess inevitable that China will become the next global superpower. And that'll be kind of crazy. I don't want to be in a place where, like I said, I can be um, limited. But all of this is just based on what I have gotten used to. I am severely limited in many different ways, and I don't see it, and I don't realize it, and hopefully I can go into it into another piece. But yeah. Anyway, thanks for listening. Um, have a good one.